Good evening, good evening, good evening. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome once again, one and all, to our as yet still unnamed Wednesday live stream. We're just going to call it the Wednesday live stream. So let's just keep it with that then, shall we? Really, the unnamed Wednesday live stream. Love it. But lots and lots to talk about today. Mainly for the fact that one of the core pillars of Brexit, the very much vaunted by the Brexiteers, of that being the US trade deal. And it's kind of strange because I've been doing a lot recently, going back looking at sort of like the old UKIP videos, trying to find if we can find some good ones, and they do talk about that quite often, about how, oh my word, we can have this fantastic US trade deal. It'll be amazing. It'll make looking and like staying in the single market completely ridiculous. We'll have it. It'll be all us, be all ours. Be like, nom, 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 nom. Yeah, completely fallen through. And as we said before, that was like the third pillar of like the four core reasons for Brexit. And just to remind you guys what those four pillars are, one was when we left, the EU would somehow crumble into dust. Second of all, we would manage to retain single market access, but still manage to keep all the sweet benefits of being in the single market, but none of the downsides. So essentially no freedom of movement, etc., etc. And then the third one would be we'd get this sweet trade deal with the US that would be absolutely mind-blowing and amazing and make, again, look staying in the single market completely ridiculous. And of course, the final one, the fourth one, which is probably why we are going to be having, and probably why Biden himself even said, no, I'm not going to give you this trade deal. Of course, we would apparently, again, this is according to the Brexiteers, we would have had a free hand in dealing with the Northern Ireland issue. A free hand to do what exactly? That's something I have yet to actually find out. And that will be interesting if they ever were any Brexiteer actually to be honest enough and actually say what they mean, which of course basically means bowing to the likes of the DUP and essentially just trashing completely the Good Friday Agreement, one of the most successful peace agreements in the world. Of course, no Brexiteer is going to say that. And of course, we are going to jump in a few minutes into the BBC Newsnight reporting of this, and then after I thought I'd give you a real treat. We'll have a look what GB News had to say about this, shall we say, deep blow to Boris Johnson and, of course, their very precious Brexit deal. And of course, finally, we've got to talk about what's going on in the Labour Party, because Starmer's just doing something incredibly stupid, and that is, of course, he's trying to take the voting system of how party leaders are elected from one member, one vote, to more a electoral college of where the MPs have a far greater say as to who gets elected as party leader. Now, of course, partly he's doing this. Of course, this is most of a response from the Labour right, who've basically thought, well, ever since Ed Miliband's brought this rule in, the Labour Party has had all these problems. No, the Labour Party has had a lot of problems, even during the Blair years. But of course, the Labour right don't really want to acknowledge that. And then Luke Master 60, will there be a Taylor Thursday? Oh, that's a fair point. Hold on. let me check, because let's see if Jeff has done anything about Biden dropping this trade deal. Let's have a look. Jeff. Oh, Jeff Taylor. Oh, okay. So let's see what we got. He has one. He's got who controls Biden. That will be interesting. Yeah, tell you what, we'll save that one. We'll save that one. Hold on, let me put this in the queue. There we go. So we will be having a bit of Jeff Taylor. We'll be going over Jeff Taylor's very little, shall we say, talk on probably this whole deal, of course, of losing out on the Northern Ireland deal. And like I say, it does have, as Chatty Rats pointed out, it does have a lot to do with Congress more. And quite frankly, a lot of the Democrats will not allow a US trade deal to be voted on. Even a lot of Republicans will not allow a trade deal to be voted on with essentially the breaking of the Good Friday Agreement. They're not going to allow it. And they've been pretty clear about saying that over the past couple of years, whenever this has been brought up in news media, and especially when it's been brought up with the current ambassador to the UK from the US. So anyway, but before we do start, good evening to you one and all. Let's have a quick see who's in chat. So we've got Dudes in chat, of course he always is. Enzo the God, good evening to you. Cathal OG, evening to you. Franz Hadjikt, good evening to you. Julian Shepherd, good evening to you. William N, good evening to you. Luke Master 60, Alexander Drogami, good evening to you. And of course, Chatty Rat. So, good evening, one and all to you. So, let's dive into this, shall we? So, let's it sounds up.
The United Nations have got used to American presidents turning up for a fight.
I have the honor to welcome to the United Nations His Excellency Donald Trump.
We can no longer be taken advantage of or enter into a one-sided deal where the United States gets nothing in return.
But in New York...
The US got lots out of their trade deals. The big problem, of course, with Trump being like a fake populist that he was, or right-wing populist that I said he was that most of their trade deals were heavily influenced by the lobbying that goes on in the US. And those lobbyists are like, okay, we want huge access, or we want really favorable stuff, but we don't really care about some of the other things. Hence why some of the US trade deals have allowed essentially jobs to move lock, stock and barrel out of the US completely and be in other foreign countries, which is again the big main problem with a lot of, again, mainly the right wing have in with the US trade deals. But again, Trump never really went into any details about these trade deals, and most, again, right-wingers in the US, same for right-wingers in the UK, do not like to talk about the details of these trade deals that we're doing, and we've already discussed some of the stuff. So, hey, have you seen the video of Biden forgetting the Australian's PM name? Yes. Yes, I have seen that. But anyway, let's get on with this.
Today, the UN heard a very different message.
We're back at the table in international forums, especially the United Nations.
The world thought it
Good, because you can't have such a powerful nation basically deciding that it was going to, well, play hardball, shall we say, with the world in that general direction. I mean, I'd hate to think what a second Trump presidency or a second term Trump would be like. I think it would be, if you thought the first one was bad, then yeah, the second one's going to be even worse. The second one is going to be a whole lot worse.
knew what it was going to get from a Biden presidency, not least Britain.
Mr. Biden, a quick word from the BBC.
BBC, I'm Irish.
Conventional wisdom had it that the 46th president would be antagonistic, perhaps even marginalize the UK.
My reading of the Biden administration is that it's a lot more pro the UK and a lot more pro Boris than sometimes people give it credit for. I think we're seeing really close cooperation where it counts, where it matters.
There is at least
Only cooperation we have seen so far, of course, is in that recent, again, the recent deal to essentially give Australia subs. Do you know where most of those subs are going to be built, by the way? They're all going to be built in the US. I think only like 2 or 3 are actually going to be built in the UK. So this new security deal to give Australia all these subs, most of them are not being, in fact, the vast majority of them are not being built in the UK. And even Australia, who, France, who, again, was really annoyed by this deal because they had a deal with Australia to build these subs. When they withdrew their diplomat, there was a response saying, well, will France be withdrawing its diplomat from the UK as well? And France basically said, we know that the UK is basically the third wheel in this cart. So France there throwing massive shade on the UK there. Like, you are not even worth withdrawing our ambassador from. That is how much you do not care in this deal. That is how much.
one area of cooperation that didn't exist under President Trump.
You knew I was going to bring it up. Climate change, he's great on that. And he wants to cut CO2. He wants to get to net zero.
The UK is about to host the UN climate conference in Glasgow. Both the UK and US administrations need it to succeed.
The climate issue is one.
This is going to be... This is going to be fun. When we see this, like this conference happen, like, I don't think it's going to be a success. I think there's going to be a lot of talk. There's going to be a lot of talk about saying how wonderful it is, how we're coming together to fix climate change. But when it gets down to the nitty-gritty of it, it's not going to happen. You may have heard, well, you may have heard recently, Britain is in a bit of a gas shortage crisis at the moment. This is because of the Conservative government cutting all funding, all the research and developing, all the grants to give people solar powers, help people insulate their homes, to move us away from fossil fuels to more energy renewable stuff. They've cut it all. And yet here we are with Boris about to go up and lead this summit and say, we need you to go carbon neutral. There is next to no money, as far as we know. We'll have to see how the autumn budget goes. There is next to no money at the moment from any form of renewables going into the next budget. Just doesn't exist. And yet we're going to hear, I'm pretty sure we're going to hear Boris Johnson talk about climate change and renewables, and yet he's the Prime Minister. If he wanted to, he could, but he daren't because, well, as you saw from the stuff that's been coming out recently, not only was Boris a huge climate change denier back in his London mayoral days, but he's just appointed to the International Trade Secretary position, formerly held by Liz Truss, now held by, I've forgotten her name now. Marie Dodds. No, not Marie Dodds. Is it Marie Dodds? I want to say Marie Dodds, who also turned out to be a massive climate change denier as well. So what can we expect from any significant climate change laws, bills, initiatives passed by this government going forward? We can't expect any, because their past record speaks volumes. They just do not care. They're going to pay lip service. Maybe they'll fund like 1 or 2 projects, but it won't be enough. It's typical Tory short-sightedness, as always. We'll give barely enough, and then maybe you can have it. Again, it's hypocrisy at its most loudest. When, I bang on about this quite a bit, but the steel industry in the UK, if it wants to have a really good future, and if Boris Johnson was actually serious about his levelling up initiative, not only could he get a really good climate change proposal going, but he could also at the same time level up all these steel plants here in the north, down in Wales, where most of the plants are. If he put enough government funding into these steel plants to go carbon neutral, because not only would it protect jobs and secure jobs for the future, it would increase more employment in these steel plants as well. So next time a Conservative or someone who's Boris supporter tells you that Boris Johnson cares about climate change or cares about his levelling up agenda, ask them, why on earth has not Boris Johnson heavily invested in the carbon neutral future of the steel industry here in the UK? It would certainly prove his commitment, but he's not going to do it. He's not going to do it at all, because there's one thing we know about the Tories, and they do not care about British manufacturing. They might make a huge song and dance about it, but they don't care. The only thing they care about in this country is the service industry, mainly the financial service industry. Don't care a lot about anything else.
One of the things that differentiates President Biden so strongly from Trump, and the fact that he is now pushing.
Yes, Biden and Trump are miles apart from each other. I think that's pretty obvious.
hard for an ambitious deal at the Glasgow summit, promising more money for green infrastructure in developing countries, is a real boon to the Prime Minister. There is still, I think, a lot of work to do to come out of that Glasgow meeting with a success, but having America shoulder to shoulder with Britain definitely increases the prospect we'll get a successful outcome. Good news for the Prime Minister.
But
Depends what happens. Depends what happens at the summit. That's a very, very optimistic take of potentially what could happen at this summit. But I'll tell you now, I'm not optimistic at all. Like I say, if Johnson was actually genuinely serious about his leveling up agenda, about creating a greener, not only Britain, but rest of the world, two birds with one stone there, Boris. Invest in making the steel industry in the UK carbon neutral. He's not going to do it. He's not going to do it at all.
other areas may not be as straightforward for the US-UK relationship. In New York today, the president outlined his big theme, of which the pullout from Afghanistan, however chaotic, was emblematic.
We've ended 20 years of conflict in Afghanistan. And as we close this period of relentless war, we're opening a new era of relentless diplomacy.
Asking for partner help on Afghanistan, in Iraq, all those kinds of things took up so much time, energy, space. I think the hope of what I heard from Biden today, certainly my personal hope, is that energy and time and space gets used for these diplomatic challenges, because there are so many of them.
Although the president...
And he is right, there are... we can get more done with far more diplomacy than you can with, like, you know, a big stick. Although, of course, there is that, you know, famous Teddy Roosevelt's I think it's Teddy Roosevelt quote, you know, speak softly but carry a big stick. You know, there's so many different ways you can describe Trump, but he was essentially a bull in a china shop. And Biden has a lot of cleaning up to do to try and improve the US image, because Trump did a lot of damage to, like, the US politically. And now we've got Boris Johnson and Liz Truss trying to promote a global Britain. We've seen that literally fall apart today. Seen it fall apart to pieces. But of course, it was never something, shall we say, to begin with. So, you know.
Didn't mention China by name in his speech. It was clear he had the struggle with China in mind during much of what he was saying.
The future will belong to those who give their people the ability to breathe free, not those who seek to suffocate their people with an iron hand.
It's not like the Soviet Union when it was the evil empire. You know, all of our countries need to work with China. And so it's a much more complicated approach than in the past. It's a more nuanced approach, and it's difficult to define, and it's certainly hard to explain to the public what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Yes. China. Again, like I say, I've said it before, that how we handle China is going to be very difficult. I've said it before, lots of conservatives, not only just here in the UK, but especially in the US, just seem to think that you can just somehow put China back in its box and it will just go away. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen at all. We have to be willing to engage with China on a level that a lot of right-wingers are not really prepared to engage in. And that's basically just talking. That's basically what they've got to do. And there's a lot of resistance on the right wing to just doing that. They want to think that if we, show enough pressure, then we can, somehow do something to China. Again, I don't know what. It's very ill-defined what they mean, but in reality, the reality is that China is still on course to become the world's new superpower. That's just the reality, and it's one we're going to have to live in. Like it or not, China is here to stay. I don't like a lot of the stuff China does, especially like, socially. I don't like the fact that, how much of the South China Sea they've just randomly claimed, which is, again, hugely dangerous to our trade in the future. We're going to have to live with China, and it starts with having open dialogues with them, and you do not see a lot of that happening. Now, I'm sure it does happen, back channels, of course, but we never hear about it.
But competition with China could negate UK and US efforts in other areas.
We shouldn't underestimate that America is changing. Their focus is moving towards China and the Asia-Pacific area, and they have less time and attention for European security. And over the longer term, that's going to become an issue for the UK.
The UK.
Yep. We've. Sorry. My green screen decided to try and eat me there. But yeah, the USA is just no longer interested in the UK. Now, the EU, on the other hand, it is interested in, because the EU as an entity is far more powerful, far more powerful than just the standard, the bog standard UK. Like I say, we no longer have an empire anymore, but this is where a lot of this bizarre fuel and the whole global Britain thing comes from. But this is where, again, to quote what we said about the French with their ambassador, they pulled it from the Australia, but when they said, why aren't you going to pull it from the UK? Well, we said their response was, well, we know France is the third. When we know that the UK is the third wheel in this deal. Like I say, what have we really got to gain by pretending that we are an Asia Pacific country? We're not. We're a European country. And this is something that a lot of people in the next coming years are going to have to learn, especially the Brexiteers. We are a European country.
UK-US post-Brexit trade deal now looks as far away as ever, and President Biden has raised concerns about the UK abandoning the Northern Ireland Protocol of the Brexit deal with the EU.
The Northern Ireland issue is important, not just to...
This is why we're not going to have it. This is why we're not going to have this deal, because first of all, you've got the DUP at this moment in time basically saying that unless the border in the Irish Sea goes, they are literally going to collapse the Northern Ireland government. They have pulled out of a ton of different programs to promote peace, to promote like cross-border funding. You name it, they're literally pulling out of it. And it probably won't be long before they decide, well, we're just going to destroy the Northern Ireland Assembly, because we're throwing our toys out of the pram. Now, we know in 2022 there is going to be a election, of course, in Northern Ireland. That could have very big consequences on who wins. The fair money is that potentially Sinn Féin very likely will become the biggest party in Northern Ireland, meaning that they will officially become first ministers. And if that happens, well, the DUP are really going to throw their toys out of the pram if that happens. And then you've obviously got to throw into that pot, potentially as well, is the idea that there could be an early election. There have been lots of mooted stuff, apparently, in the past couple of weeks that Boris Johnson wants to have another early election. He wants to have an election in 2023, which is going to be, again, not that far off. Remember, we're almost to the end of 2021. So we're literally talking less than 2 years away now. So it's going to be it's honestly, it's going to be a mess. And I really can't tell you what's going to happen in Northern Ireland. I wish I could. Boris and Frost are basically committing vandalism by essentially deciding not to implement the very protocol they themselves helped to write, create, and told was one of the best deals ever. In fact, we were told, as you remember, that it was completely oven ready. It has been Britain that has been refusing to implement the Northern Ireland Protocol, whereas the Northern Ireland Protocol is flowing fine from the other side. It is just Britain that is refusing to implement it, mostly because of the exact same reasons why we very recently had the checks that were set to start in October be moved again to next year. So now they've got another year to prepare for essentially checks at the border. But of course, that involves building the infrastructure, hiring the staff, preparing all the businesses. And remember, there is still been no money allocated to pay for some of these infrastructure and, of course, the hiring of some of these new infrastructure staff. Hang on, I keep on disappearing into my green screen. It's like, can I do it? Oh no, I can't. It's not going to work now. Oh well. Oh no, there it goes again. But yeah, I genuinely wish I could look into like a crystal ball and just tell you Northern Ireland's going to be fine. I can tell you, just like in the UK, where I've said 2022 is going to be bad for a lot of people here in the UK, I think it's really going to be 2022, 2023, where we see these deals, especially Northern Ireland Protocol, become real big issues. Because if the DUP somehow managed to gain power, and or shall we say not gain power, but retain power, which at the moment, given the elections, the polling and stuff going on in Northern Ireland, is very, very unlikely. But again, you don't know what's going to happen in the next 6 months to 6 to 12 months. You don't know. It could be really bad. It could be really bad. And Big Tony. Bad news after bad news, embarrassment after embarrassment. As someone who voted to leave, I just want to say I'm sorry. And how can we ever reverse the greatest fraud ever? Well, that's a start. That's a start. Really is the start. The next thing is just start talking about it. Talk about it. Talk about it with people how bad it is. You know, share it on your social media how bad things are. You know, talk to your fellow leavers how bad this is, and just go, we made a mistake. You know, own up, be honest. Like I say, I've said before, you will find most Remainers like me, like when we hear people like Tony, you know, admit that they made a mistake, we'll be fine with it. Like, we're not going to say make fun of you or anything like that. We're basically going to say, welcome to the party. This is how we've got to fight back and sort out some of these problems, because if you think it's bad now, you ain't seen nothing yet. Remember, this is just barely the first year. This is barely the first year of Brexit properly. And just look how fast the wheels have come off the cart. So, like I say, I think it will happen a lot quicker than people think, as to say rejoining the EU. Mostly because I think it's the Conservatives who are going to seriously push it. I think it'll be interesting to see how this Conservative conference goes. That's going to be happening in the next couple of weeks. Also going to be very interesting, the Labour conference and the stuff that comes out of there in the next couple of weeks. And we'll get into that definitely in a bit later on in the video. But, oh boy. The other thing to watch out for the Conservative conference is to see if there is any fringe events talking about Europe and how they're talking about Europe. That will be very interesting to see. That will be very interesting to see, because I've said it before, the barometer for our rejoining will pretty much be how much money the donors from the Conservative Party are really losing from Brexit. And when they start to say, we're losing too much money from you, you know, screwing up Brexit, you know, time to rejoin, we'll end up rejoining. We really will. And I say that because, unfortunately, if Starmer continues going on his track like we're doing, then I think that the Conservatives are going to win the next election. I think they're going to have a reduced majority. I don't think it'll be a hung parliament, but they will have a very significant reduced majority, I think. But we'll have to go. But we'll have to see what happens. Oh, is this the Chatty Rats posted the... Oh. Here we are. So these are the latest poll numbers from Northern Ireland. And we get this all the time. Every time I bring this up, Gerald and William and Will N. No European country ever said it would not welcome Britain back. No European country is saying they will not allow the UK back. There is no EU politician, there is no national politician or anything like that. We will be allowed back in because it just makes sense for us to be part of the EU. It will just be looked upon as Britain made a mistake. Not only that, but Britain rejoining the European Union will silence every single other anti-EU party out there. It will completely silence them. Because like Brexit has done damage, because again, people forget places like Denmark were very, very close to us in terms of like our anti-EU sentiment that we would put out. With Denmark seeing how bad Brexit has gone for us, it has massively damaged their anti-EU parties. It's massively damaged the Dutch anti-EU sentiment as well. So we would be allowed back. Those saying that we wouldn't be allowed back, I'm sorry if you're wrong. We would be allowed back. Certainly not with like the same deal that we had. I'll agree with you there. There's no way we'd be allowed to have the same deal we had when we were in, that we obviously lost when we left. We'd probably have to definitely like adopt the euro, which I'd be fine with. It doesn't bother me. And probably join Schengen as well. Doesn't bother me. I'd be up for that. Like I say, we would be allowed back. The idea that we wouldn't be allowed back, no, that's wrong. We would be allowed back. So let's continue with this.
To Biden, but it's important to the U.S. Congress. Nancy Pelosi, the head of the House of Representatives, as you know, was here. The Speaker of the House of Representatives was here just the other day, and she also was saying that we may not sign a trade deal with the UK if we're not happy with with what's going on in Northern Ireland. So it isn't just Biden; it's Congress. It's many Americans who have, feel very emotionally attached to Ireland.
I think
yeah, as we said before, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen at all. The idea of a UK UK trade deal, not going to happen unless the UK actually starts to fulfill. Can start to fulfill its deal with the Northern Ireland Protocol. Ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen at all.
Boris administration has got its work cut out in terms of persuading the Biden to see its point of view on a number of things, not least the Northern Irish Protocol. I think other governments have been much more effective at making their views known in Washington.
As the two.
How are you? Okay. I'd love to know how Boris is going to put his case to Biden that the Northern Ireland Protocol is working, or because it's like, look here, Biden. Oh, we did this deal. I said we'd put a border in the Irish Sea, and we put a border in the Irish Sea, and I said that we'd accept all these the checks and the balances, and we'd accept all the stuff, and we set it all up, and then the EU started actually following the rules, and it was like, oh, how is he going to put that to Biden? Like, how is he honestly generally going to put that to Biden? Yeah. Like I say, a lot of people in the US are very, very aware and make themselves surprisingly, as you see here, very surprisingly well informed about what goes on in Northern Ireland and Ireland itself. About that. So, you know, they know full well that the problem currently with the Northern Ireland Protocol is us. No one else, it's us, because we are refusing to do that.
Two leaders meet in the White House this evening. The UK-US relationship has clear tensions and challenges, but there seems to be a level of engagement that few predicted when Mr. Biden took office.
Well, that was David Grossman joining.
We really do have to see what's going to come of this. I mean, a lot of people are saying, "Oh my God, there's this huge level of engagement." What level of engagement? The stuff to do with climate change. You know, Boris and the Conservatives have for years pulled funding, cut funding, not even bothered funding, you know, green projects, green energy here in the UK. Why on earth, with a track record like that, should they now start to say that Biden should start doing the same as well? As for China, we've bizarrely decided to send a task force out into the East Pacific. Why? That's just a colossal waste of money. But it was done because Boris wants to try and woo Australia to try and get them on board for us getting on, of course, the Pacific Partnership trade, which again is not going to aid us because we are not a Pacific country, because I've said multiple times, what leverage does the UK have to make all these Asian Pacific countries give us good deals for us to send our products over there? Like, what leverage do we have? We've got nothing. We can't even make the same play that Margaret Thatcher made for having Japan come over and invest in the UK, saying, come invest in us, we're the gateway to Europe. Which is why, again, you see even in the UK today, a lot of Japanese companies that came over there during the 80s, because that was Margaret Thatcher's big ploy. Come over to us because we're the gateway to Europe. We're not even the gateway to Europe anymore, because we're not even in the single market customs union that gives us such easy access to send goods over to the European Union now. We're out pretty much of all the just-in-time delivery systems. Once again, Brexiteers do not seem to understand world trade, the EU, or pretty much anything to do with geopolitical politics. And you know what? I don't either. Most of my knowledge comes from me looking at Brexit, looking at experts, seeing what they're saying, and forming my opinion through that. But even I have a better understanding of world trade than seems to be Boris Johnson. Although certainly Liz trusted, but oh my indeed.
Yes, now Dan Hannan, Conservative peer and member.
Oh, Daniel Hannan. Oh, Daniel Hannan. Oh, the fabled brain of Brexit. Remember, this is the guy who said that no one is talking about leaving the single market. Only a fool would talk about leaving the single market. So this is going to be interesting to see what he's got to say on this, because again, he was a big supporter of the Atlantic Bridge, which again, heavily pushing for that UK-US trade deal.
Board of Trade, and Brendan Ball, the Democratic congressman who sits on the influential Ways and Means Committee. First of all, though, we start with Sarah Collinbrander, Director of Climate and Sustainability with ODI Global. Sarah, can you put this China...
Can't help think that there is an opposition voice here missing. Can't help but think there really is an opposition voice here missing. I mean, we'll see, but I'm very interested to see what Daniel Hannan has to say. This is what we're watching this one for.
Announcement into context for us. Is this a game changer?
I think it confirms that the end of coal is now in sight. We've seen investment trickling out of it for some time. Private sector finance has been slowly withdrawing as the economics of coal has changed. Until recently, since 2013, sorry.
You, Congressman Boyle, if the aim was to move the dial on climate change between these two leaders today, that has worked. This has been a successful meeting, hasn't it?
Well, great to be back with you, Emily. And yes, and coming into this presidency, I looked at climate change as probably one of the main areas where President Biden could work with European leaders, including the British Prime Minister and the British government, and replace what obviously had been a very antagonistic relationship between Donald Trump and most of our allies. The reality is, if we are going to, while this is a controversial issue here in the US domestically, it isn't worldwide with respect to climate change. And if we are going to make the ambitious goals of the Paris Climate Accord, we frankly have to accelerate our efforts.
Yeah. Dan, I was reading, you wrote, I think, just last July, is it worth decarbonizing the rest of the world if the rest of the world won't follow? You were standing in Derbyshire at the time.
Yes, yes, it is, because the rest of the world will follow that example.
Guess now the answer is yes, it is worth it. If China is really stepping back from future financing of any new coal mine, then that puts the boot right back on all of our feet as well, doesn't it?
It certainly makes a big difference. China is responsible for about 28% of all global carbon emissions. And of course, with the best will in the world, we've made very substantial reductions already. We're less than 1%. So this has to be and proportionately and in line with market principles.
When you talk about transactional, Brendan Boyle, the one thing that isn't there, and we know won't be there this trip, is any work on a free trade deal.
Here we go. This is what we're looking for.
Boris Johnson said he recognised the US president had bigger fish to fry. Now, won't that always be the case with Britain? I mean, how do we make a case for that trade deal if there are always bigger fish to fry?
How do we? How do we? We are not that big a fish. I cannot stress this enough, how many times Brexiteers seem to claim that Britain was somehow this secret trading superpower. But again, they're thinking of Britain when it had an empire, when it had a imperial favor system, where again all the wealth would be sucked out of the colonies, brought back into the home island. The products would be made here in the UK, and then traded again with other countries, and then the colonies would not be allowed to trade with any other countries. Hence why those colonies became essentially a captive market for British imports. And conservatives love to talk about how we have a history of free trade here in the UK. They neglect to point out that free trade came at the end of a barrel of a gun. And like I say, if you weren't an empire, or if you weren't one of our colonies in the empire, like I say, a ship would turn up, very nicely say, sign this deal or else, and two things would either happen. Your ports would get blown to smithereens, or we'd find someone else who would definitely sit on that throne and sign that trade deal. That's how we operated. It's how most of the European colonial powers operated, to be honest, in fairness. But, you know, like I say, that's how we operated. That was the free trade Brexiteers often love to talk about.
Well, you know, as you know, I serve on the House Ways and Means Committee, which has jurisdiction over trade issues. We have no planned meetings on any sort of prospective US-UK trade deal. President Biden.
And that says a lot. So there isn't even any planned meetings on a US-UK trade deal. It's just not even on the agenda for them, not even on their radar.
Biden, or excuse me, President Obama then 5 years ago famously said that any consideration of a bilateral trade deal would go to the back of the line or back of the queue, as you would say. The reality is here, and that's no disrespect to the UK, it's just a reality of so many other competing priorities for us in Congress. Even on trade, certainly our relationship is with respect to China, with respect to implementation of the USMCA.
He's basically just telling you here, you're just not that important. That's what he's really saying. He's basically saying you're really just not that important. And it's going to be very, very interesting to hear what Henan has to say in response to this. It'll be very, very interesting to see what Henan's response is going to be to this.
Our biggest trading partners, Canada and Mexico. Right now, the
US's biggest trading partners are Canada and Mexico. Why might that be? Why might that be? Why would the USA's biggest trade partners be Canada and Mexico? Don't think it has to do anything with that trade gravity that we often end up talking about, and how countries always trade with their closest neighbors.
Those issues do take precedence. And again, that's not because of any slight of the UK. It's just a practical reflection of size and the extent to which we trade with these countries.
Interestingly enough, today, they haven't mentioned it here. It got released today that the UK wants to try and join NAFTA, I think it's called, the North American Free Trade Agreement, which is, again, the agreement between Canada, the USA, and Mexico. The UK apparently wants to tag into that. You won't be surprised that I think both Canada and Mexico have both turned around and said, no. And this is what's so bizarre about this, because now not only does Boris Johnson have designs on joining the Pacific Partnership, but he has oh yes, sorry, yeah, it was NAFTA. It's now the USMACA, which is exactly the same, the same thing, essentially, just a different acronym now. But we are in a situation of where we want to join these two quite powerful trade blocs, but we don't want to be in the EU trade bloc, which is literally our doorstep. That doesn't make sense. That literally does not make sense at all. But anyway, we're now about to hear Hanan in response to this. So remember what this guy has just said. This guy has literally just said, the UK is not worth our time, and it's just not important enough by itself. So let's hear Daniel Hanan, who, bear in mind, back in 2016, massive supporter of the Atlantic Bridge, of trying to get that UK-USA trade deal, big supporter of saying that we could get this amazing trade deal with America that would make staying in the single market look completely ridiculous. After this guy has just said, not worth our time, you're just not that important, what's going to be his response to this? Let's sit back, strap yourselves in, because I'm sure this is going to be fantastic.
And we are literally at the back of the queue.
I'm sure there will eventually be a trade deal. The economics all point in the same direction. A million Brits work for American-owned companies. A million Americans work for British-owned companies. We are each other's largest investors because of all the obvious commonalities of language and common law and accountancy systems and all the rest of it. I think that
that was exactly the same argument Hanan gave back in 2016. That guy sitting across from him, the guy from the Ways and Means Commission, literally just said, not worth our time, you're not that important. Hanan's response has been the same bog standard, oh, they'll do a deal. Look at all these Brits that work for American companies and Brits that work for American, Americans that work for Brit companies. What about all the British that work for European companies? What about all that trade and investment we had from the EU? And for us being the biggest investor in America, I'm pretty sure that's wrong. In fact, I'm gonna fact check Daniel Hanan here. Let's have a look. USA. So the biggest foreign investments, according to this, of what I found here, in 2020 goes like this. So it's Japan, then Canada. Oh, hang on, tell you what. Let me show you the map. Where is it? Here we are. So this is the map right here. We are third. So we are not the USA's biggest investor. That's Japan. And in order of biggest investment, it's Japan. By a long shot, a lot of money goes from Japan to America, as you can see there. Then it's Canada. Then it's us. Then it's Netherlands, Germany, Luxembourg, Sweden, France, Ireland, Australia, Spain, France, Belgium, South Korea, etc., etc. I don't think we need to go any further than that. But no, we are not the USA's largest investor. In fact, if you totted all those up, you could say that it is the EU who is the largest investor in the US. So who is the US going to pay more attention to? The UK or the US? And Hanan started off by talking about the economic realities. The economic realities staring us right here in the face. The EU is by far a more important economic partner to the US than the UK is. So Hanan still living in fantasy Brexit land. There we go. Just scoot it back a bit. There we go. There we go.
We are each other's largest investors because of all the obvious
No, it's not. Just doing on that.
commonalities of language and common law and accountancy systems and all the rest of it. I think that there will probably be a rethink in Washington about the Trans-Pacific Partnership. I think that the UK and the US will be partners there.
Do you mean part of this deal? I mean, there is talk tonight of a sort of piggyback deal with the Mexico-Canada.
Yeah, this is it. This is what I was talking about, piggybacking onto this Mexico-Canada deal. You'll notice this guy here on the screen is rolling his eyes a bit at that. Rolling his eyes a bit at that.
Arrangement tell us, is that possible from where you're sitting, Brendan Boyle, that the UK could enter into that deal?
I serve on the committee that would have to vote on it, and I can tell you I haven't heard one word about that. I mean, it is just not a subject that ever comes up here. It does sometimes in the context of Northern Ireland. Aside from that, though, frankly, it's just not an issue that ever comes up.
It's not an issue that ever comes up. Hanan has spouted off all the usual Brexiteer fantasies about getting a trade deal with the US. We've just seen the economic realities. The EU is by far a bigger trade partner with the UK, no, sorry, with the US than it is with the UK. Like, this guy here has literally just smacked Hanan in the face. He's well and truly put Hanan in his place here.
I have to say, I'm obviously speaking to different people in Washington from the congressman. I've had a lot of conversations.
I've had a lot of important conversation with congressmen who are saying exactly the same but different things. I'm not trying to desperately try and salvage my situation after being literally slapped in the face. Absolutely. I'm sorry, absolutely, Hanan. You just absolutely got slapped in the face there again. And to say that shows just how desperate you are to fulfill these bizarre fantasies.
I'm obviously speaking to different people in Washington from the congressman. I've had a lot of conversations on both sides of the aisle about this, and I've come across a lot of enthusiasm in both chambers. I mean, obviously, there are distractions at the moment. We have this wrecking ball coming in of the coronavirus. But
well, hang on, Dan. I mean, but Brenda Boyle's...
Quickly, Hanan, dig yourself out of this hole even more. Quickly, try and dig yourself out of it. Notice, by the way, he didn't even say any of the names. Didn't say any of the names of these single congressmen he's ever talked to. Didn't say a single name of any of these congressmen he's ever talked to. And yeah, Hanan does look angry. And the guy from the US is just sat there, just probably bemused by all this. Yeah. The janitors in Washington are very enthusiastic about a UK-US trade deal.
Sits on the committee, you would have to vote on it. If he's never heard of it, and if it's not on any of the talks or any of the agenda this week, then presumably he would know if it was coming around the corner.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I heard.
Yeah, he would know. He would know, and he tried to speaking there. Even the presenter knows at this point how ridiculous Hanan sounds, because Hanan was, again, one of these big Brexiteers who was talking so fancy and big time, I'm resorting to Donald Trump terminology now. He talked in such grand ways about how the UK could get all these fantastic trade deals, and it'd be so easy. We'll get them like that, bing, bang, bosh. We'll get them around the world. Easy, here, there, and everywhere. Here you have Hanan being brutally slapped down. Like someone call the police because Hanan is being assaulted here live on air, because that's what's happening. He's being absolutely taken to the cleaners on this.
Presumably he would know if it was coming around the corner.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I heard the congressman giving an interview a few months ago talking about whether the UK trade deal would come before or after the EU one. So it is.
Which congressman? And you've basically just said, oh well, I heard a congressman saying, wonder whether the UK deal would come before the EU one, and he's been absolutely caught with his trousers down. Absolutely caught with his trousers down. Yeah. Oh, thank you very much, Jonathan Zundell. Thank you very much for the support there. In population, Sweden. In population, Sweden is probably larger USA trading partner than UK. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. In fact, let's see if we can look that up. What would I have to call it now? Let's see. This USA biggest trading partners is 2021. Let's see what here. In order. Here we are. Yes. Again, so this is from the World Bank. Let's see. Sort sending. Nope. Other way. Sort descending. There we are. So, in their top 10, let me get this up for you, because it's always good to see this type of stuff. Yeah, there we are. So here it is. In order: Canada, Mexico, China, Japan, United Kingdom, Germany, Korea, the Netherlands, Hong Kong, Brazil, France, Belgium. Like, so where are we on that list? We're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're 5th on that list at the moment. Germany's in 6th. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So technically, there's only 2 European countries in that list. Sorry, 3 European countries in the top 10. The UK, Germany, and Netherlands. With, as you can see at the bottom here, France and Belgium come up in after number 10. Australia, Switzerland comes up here. Italy comes up there. Further still, Spain's there. Turkey is technically in the customs union. I don't know if you would count it as not part of the EU or not. Norway. So, as you can see, even with what that guy is there saying, even with what he's saying, we appear to be doing a good volume of trade. And remember, these are the 2021 figures. So this is like the most up to date you can. Not sure if we can get like last year's. Sure if we can get. Not sure if we can get it from here. It's 2018. We'll leave it there. We'll leave it there, but you get the idea. You get the idea. I think it's pretty much shown Nan is engaging, as all Brexiteers do, in very wishful thinking. Very wishful thinking. But you get the idea. Henan has well and truly been shot down there. And now he's making up senators and congressmen that he speaks to, not dropping any names. When you have the guy on the Ways and Means Committee who is responsible for these deals, never even heard of it. Never even heard of it. I'll shoes back a bit.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I heard the congressman giving an interview a few months ago talking about whether the UK trade deal would come.
Yes, a congressman. She should press him on this. This would be fun if I was ever in this situation. I would press Henan on this congressman.
Before or after the EU one. So it's obviously not something that he's never thought about. And by the way, on that, there shouldn't be any competition. I mean, I want there to be a US-EU trade deal. I want us to have rich neighbors. I want the EU to prosper. I want Ireland to prosper. You know, the best outcome for everyone is that there should be a general global removal of trade barriers. It's not some kind of beg your neighbor thing.
Yeah,
Henan, after being absolutely well and truly spanked, desperately trying to salvage some grace after that. Let's see what he has to say. Let's see what the US guy here has in response to say to that.
I'll say this. I mean, speaking first, so people understand right now, and when I say right now, I mean literally the next 10 days. These are some of the most important votes on domestic issues that I will cast as a member of Congress. Some of those include climate change. Really, the totality of the entire Biden domestic agenda is coming right down to the wire. So that here is frankly crowding out any other sort of topic, any sort of consideration of any of trade deal, that's for sure. That having been said, though, let me say this. I'm someone who believes strongly in the transatlantic relationship. I've been concerned at the way the West has been divided over the last 5 years. I think anything we can do to get Europe, the UK, the United States back on the same page would frankly benefit us all.
Massive supporter of the US, UK, and Europe being on the same page. Might not have just said it, but he's just said that the UK should be back inside the European Union. Oh, if he'd this would have been absolutely fantastic if he had just gone, well, as far as I'm concerned, you know, the UK should rejoin the European Union. That would have been, oh my word. Which he almost said there. Let's face it. It's pretty much, you know, if you extrapolate some of his words, being on the same page again, what does that mean? You mean the same page when we were inside the European Union? I mean, you are right, Helder. This is a complete smackdown. This is a smackdown of Henan of epic proportions, and this always happens to Daniel Henan when there's someone there who is an expert to question his bizarre beliefs and bizarre theories in British trade. In fact, one time we have to go over Henan's fantasy Brexit land that he created. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It was written like shortly before the referendum back in 2016, but it's Hanan's picture of Britain in like 2020, like 2035 or something like that, and we'll be still celebrating our leaving the EU with parades. You're like, okay, okay.
And when you talk about Europe, the UK, and the US, where does the positioning of Joe Biden, who always calls himself an Irishman when he's asked about the UK relations, where does the Northern Ireland Protocol fit into all that?
So this just isn't a controversial topic here, as you know. I mean, we've made it clear going back to June of 2016 just how important preserving the Good Friday Agreement is to us. I accompanied Speaker Pelosi and 10 of my colleagues when we went to 10 Downing Street and communicated this message several years ago and a former prime minister ago. There has been no change in that. And just recently, I was part of a letter in which 36 members of Congress from both political parties, from progressive Democrats to conservative Republicans, wrote to the British Prime Minister to show our continued interest and concern as it relates to the Irish peace process.
Oh, thank you very much for your support there. Love all your hard work, matey. Keep it up. Thank you very much for that. So I'll tell you what, this guy keeps on landing body blow after body blow into Hanan here. And he's pretty much just said, if you don't honor or are seen not to be honoring and keeping the Good Friday Agreement intact, you can forget it. Currently, and as he's even said there, Northern Ireland Protocol, not a controversial issue over in America. They see it as fine. This has been a well and truly car crash interview for Hanan. He's just absolutely got destroyed. Absolutely well and truly got destroyed on this. Well and truly.
To show our continued interest and concern as it relates to the Irish peace process.
Dan Hannan, do you sense there is a kind of, I don't know if you'd call it a naughty step period, that the UK government has to prove that it understands how deals work before another one comes along?
I like that question to him. Do you understand what being on the naughty step means? Talking to a literal child. Do you understand why you've been put on the naughty step, Hanan, Daniel? You know? He's been well and truly got here. Well and truly, absolutely dunked on here. Not only by the guy in the US, but even the reporter here is jumping in on this.
Has to prove that it understands how deals work before another one comes along.
You know, I've never really understood why people think we need to be lectured about keeping the peace in part of the UK. I mean, who has a greater...
Oh dear. This is again. We don't need to be lectured about keeping the peace. We're the ones breaking it. We are the ones actively breaking it. We are literally the ones actively breaking this. And you don't seem to care. In fact, people like you said in 2016, Northern Ireland, not even going to be an issue. And yet, Northern Ireland has been a constant thorn in the side for Brexiteers. Katie Ho, for example, who said, again, another Brexiteer who said Northern Ireland not going to be an issue, recently came out and said a couple of weeks ago now, oh yes, we had to sacrifice Northern Ireland or else we wouldn't have gotten Brexit. Honestly, yeah, you are right. Yeah, Hanan's getting really angry now. He is, because he's got to resort to the rhetoric that, again, Brexiteers said when Obama said this about protecting the Northern Ireland peace process. This is exactly what he said. We don't need to be lectured about Northern Ireland.
About keeping the peace in part of the UK. I mean, who has a greater interest, who has a greater incentive than we do in the prosperity and stability of Northern Ireland? And it's been one of the things that's been going on for as long as I can remember, that Irish American lobbyists like the congressman feel that kind of we need to be told to do this. I mean, if you think of how much turmoil and how much bloodshed we suffered there, we have more interest than anybody in preserving peace and stability.
I guess, Brendan Boyle, the question is, does
he's floundering, absolutely floundering there.
the president understand that Northern Ireland is part of the UK? You know, if it was you exporting to Hawaii, you'd have a different feeling about this.
Yeah, well, so first, I'm a member of Congress, not a lobbyist. Second, it is quite clear that an active American presence was needed in the 1990s and throughout the last several decades to ensure we had an even-handed treatment of both communities in Northern Ireland. I have been very concerned that some have spoken in a breezily, even dangerous way when it comes to the Good Friday Agreement, even some talk in some circles about scrapping it altogether. So I happen to think that the U.S. presence here has been good over the last 30 years. Certainly, former Prime Ministers Tony Blair and John Major have also communicated that.
I love it there. Literally delivering an absolute coup de grace. He has been right. Absolutely right. There have been Brexiteers who have been outright saying we should just chuck and get rid of the Northern Ireland peace process. We should just do whatever we wish with it. Bravo on this guy. This guy is just absolutely, completely shellacked, given a beat down, shall we say, on Daniel Hannan here. That is literally what has happened. It has been an absolutely utter beat down of Daniel Hannan by this guy. Bravo on this guy. Bravo to him.
And either way, it is going to continue.
Okay. Thank you both very much indeed. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Daniel Hannan, well and truly receiving an epic beating. Because compared to Hannan, he lives in the real world. He understands the issues going on in Northern Ireland. He understands it. He knows the issues surrounding that. As do most, again, I said this before at the beginning, most Americans, most US congressmen and senators have a very, very good understanding of the political situation going on in Northern Ireland. And like I say, Hannan got absolutely schlocked he got absolutely knocked about. You know, all I could say is thank goodness the bell rang, because I don't think he could have survived much longer. I mean, we had the opener of the American guy saying, "You're not important as you think you are, and Europe's far more important to us than you are," to begin with. Hernan starts saying the usual stuff, what we've heard Brexiteers say 100 times about why we should get these trade deals, when, again, you can apply that exact same rhetoric to the EU, and for some reason it doesn't care, or it's a matter of sovereignty. Again, whenever they come up against something, they back onto the rhetoric, which is why Hernan went immediately back to the rhetoric about being lectured on on peace. It's so unbelievable. It's so unbelievable. But there you go. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Daniel Hernan getting absolutely cream crackered. Absolutely cream crackered by this US senator. So now you've seen the balance take. You've seen the balance take on this. Shall we have a look at the GB News take? Or should we have a look at what I think might be Jeff Taylor's take on this? Like I say, let me know, because I've got the GB News set up. I've also got Jeff set up. And like I say, we've only got, well, 40 minutes to spare. Well, less than that to spare. I'm seeing a lot of Jeffs. Oh, yes, we haven't visited Andre Walker, Boris Johnson's illegitimate son, for a while. We might have to go. Tell you what, next week we'll have a pop in with Andre. We'll see how he's doing, because I'm sure he's doing well with his fantasy football league of people who pay to be on his live stream. What a racket. What an absolute racket he's got going on. So you're all popping in for Jeff, so we shall get Jeff on. If this is your, I think this is the latest one. Yeah, I'll go for this. If this is your first time experiencing Jeff Taylor, I do apologize. Like I say, Jeff should indeed come with a warning label. Be prepared for some outlandish comments and just general outlandishness from Jeff. Like I say, we will, shall we say, adopt the speed because Jeff talks awfully slow, and we'll see what Jeff has to say about this.
Hello there. So even a British government minister is now openly questioning the ability of follicle scent expert Joe Biden to understand international politics. It makes you wonder what conversations world governments are having behind closed doors regarding the American president when preparing to negotiate with him, or rather, to negotiate with whoever is pulling the Biden strings.
So apparently, according to Jeff, Joe Biden doesn't understand world politics. Joe Biden has been a senator and sat on lots of different boards and Senate committees for years. Obviously, being Obama's deputy throughout the 8 years of the Obama presidency, and now he's president himself. I think he's pretty clued up. And yes, dude's right. He hates Biden now. You are right. Just a couple of weeks ago, Jeff was singing the praises of Joe Biden.
As per usual, please like, subscribe and comment below. And when subscribing, please do press that little bell, but also select the all option, or you won't get any notifications when I publish a new video.
So as Jeff has plugged his own stuff, I'm going to plug my own opportunity now. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button while you're here. Like I say, it does help out the channel a lot. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page, as well as a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all the people who do support the channel. Thank you very much to the people who have also donated on stream today. Thank you very much. Your support is very, very much appreciated. And now, on with the rest of the show.
As Joe Biden blunders along the international stage, armed with memory-jogging flashcards, his presidency is becoming more defined, not by what he says, but by the speed with which he is bundled off the stage, or the press are bundled out the door, or he confusedly wanders off before anyone can ask him questions. And one can only imagine the prep work and the plethora of crossed fingers and...
Oh, thank you very much, Akajosa. Yeah, Akajosa. Yeah. I'm just not even going to bother pronouncing the second one. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm glad you found it entertaining. Thank you very much. It's too fast. Too fast. Oh, well, go on then. I will slow it down by one. But I've said before, Jeff's a slow talker, and I want to try and get through this fast. So we'll see how we get through it.
The angst in the White House corridors before he leaves the bathroom, let alone the front door. And because of this, more and more people are asking, who's actually running the White House show? Because it can't possibly be Joe Biden. So the thinking goes that in the absence of a cognitively functioning president, there has to be some entrenched deep state running the USA, for which Biden is nothing more than a drunken ventriloquist's dummy. I'm sorry, but the greatest conspiracy theory right now is that sleepy Joe Biden makes his own decisions. But those who are making the decision...
Okay, Jeff here. Jeff engaging in outright conspiracy theories. Oh my. Oh my. Get your tinfoil hat on, because Jeff's here thinks that Joe Biden is being, you know, puppet mastered by some deep state conspiracy. But Then again, Jeff would know all about being puppeteered, so maybe Jeff can see what we can't.
Or pointing him where they want him to go do not appear to be friends of their own US of A. The damaging fallout from the rushed Afghanistan surrender and pullout, while leaving tens of billions of dollars worth of pristine US military kit behind them, as well as US citizens, is testament to that. And his recent dealings seem disjointed and cack-handed. Just take his dealings with us in the UK. 1 minute it's all happiness, cooperation and friendship where the AUKUS submarine deal is concerned, the US working closely with the UK to enhance Australia's military capability in the Indo-Pacific geopolitical arena. But then it's back off Britain as he tries his best to destroy the very UK, helping him with that by supporting the EU and the Republic of Ireland over the Northern Ireland Protocol.
Yes, he said it. I've said before, I think... I've said before, I think Jeff knows. I think Jeff knows what it is. I'm going to speed this up again because, yeah, he's still too slow for me at this. We're going up to 1.5 because he's still too slow at talking at that speed for me. But, yeah. This has been going on since 2016. The Americans have been very, very clear. If we are giving Ireland the shaft in any trade deal, then no US trade deal whatsoever.
And in the process showing how politically ignorant he is with regard to the constitutional position of Northern Ireland and its people, as well as the true intent of the Belfast Agreement. And that ignorance would extend much further than just him.
The true intent of the Belfast Agreement. Oh, Mr. Taylor, you are engaging in some conspiracy today. Oh. I never thought I'd hear Jeff say that. Apparently, the true intent of the Belfast Agreement. So he's calling it what Ireland and America referred to as the Good Friday Agreement. We normally call it the Good Friday Agreement or the Belfast Agreement. It's the same thing. But he's referring it to here because apparently, again, this is very, very conspiratorial. The Belfast Agreement was all about stealing Northern Ireland and making Ireland all whole again under a secret treaty. And that's what this all nefarious is about, breaking up the UK. Ooh. So, yeah, Jeff is really engaging in some conspiracy, in some conspiratorial thinking today.
It will also encompass his advisors and his administration. And talking to the PM Boris Johnson yesterday, Biden warned that he would not like it if the protocol was ripped up. On the protocols, I feel very strongly on this, he said. I would not at all like to see a change in the Irish Accords with the end result of having a closed border.
Yep. That has been the USA position since day one. USA position since day one hasn't changed, not going to change anytime soon.
And that's despite growing evidence for anyone to see that the protocol is the thing doing the most damage to the Good Friday Agreement and so threatening the ongoing peace process.
If the protocol is so damaging to the peace process, why on earth did Boris Johnson and David Frost come up with the protocol to solve the problem of there not being a problem, not being a border, a hard land border on Northern Ireland, in Northern Ireland, between Northern Ireland and the Republic? Something, by the way, which I guarantee if we were to go back to the deals time, I guarantee you we would see Jeff here telling us how wonderful this Brexit deal is. In fact, I know if we do, because I think I did a video around that time about Jeff's praising of the said protocol and the big Brexit deal.
But he's not capable of comprehending that, and his handlers are also just as thick, or are not telling Biden the whole story. But just behind Biden during the press conference was the bust of JFK, who was, according to the JFK Library, America's first Irish Catholic president. And the one bust that Biden removed on getting into the Oval Office was that of Winston Churchill. Now, the Republic of Ireland might take comfort from Biden over this at the moment, but they know that day of reckoning is coming when the US pounds them into raising their corporate tax rates, which threatens to derail the Southern Irish economy. All very joined up, isn't it? And now we have a UK minister saying that Biden doesn't comprehend this complicated protocol issue. But before I get into that, I just want to say a massive thank you to all.
So that will not confound the Southern Ireland economy. That's complete nonsense. There's nothing to back that up. Just Ireland had a better deal to offer these places. These companies aren't going to go. Essentially, that's complete nonsense. You are right there, Sean Neilabud. You know, this is kind of one of the big arguments we've seen before about, oh, we need to have a lower corporation tax. Well, Ireland has one of the lowest corporation taxes in Europe, but even with their low corporation tax, you do not see all these companies flooding to Ireland to get that low corporation tax. You just don't see it. There's other things involved in, the economics, Ireland's real close relationship to the US, hence why they got the Google headquarters for Europe. They've got the Blizzard headquarters over there. I think they have Apple as well. At least I think they do. But yeah, this is yeah. This is all complete nonsense. But again, it's Jeff Taylor. He's the living embodiment of the Daily Express.
All my super thanks, Patreon and PayPal supporters, as well as those that do buy a mug with my mug on it. Links in the descriptions box below. You really do help me keep this channel going. The UK Environment Secretary George Eustice was more than forgiving of Biden yesterday when he said the US president was, probably at the moment, just reading the headlines, reading what the EU is saying, reading what Ireland might be saying, which is that they would like the Northern Ireland Protocol to work in the way the EU envisaged.
Again, George Eustice, a guy who should know better. This protocol was put in place, designed and created by us. We are the ones who are not making it work. And as we've just established, US congressmen, US senators, and even Joe Biden probably have a really good estimate of picture of what is really going on in Northern Ireland, probably better than George Eustice. So yeah.
The truth is that Biden is only looking at one side of the Ireland issue where the protocol is concerned and cannot be bothered or is incapable of finding out and understanding what the other side says.
That being that the UK deserves, I don't know, special treatment. I don't know, Jeff, what this other side is. But the protocol, like you say, we're the ones not implementing the protocol.
He is just not listening to the UK position, even though the warning signs are flashing across Northern Ireland. George Eustice went on to say, "We think he's wrong, because the truth is that unless we have a sustainable solution that enables trade to continue between Great Britain and Northern Ireland, then we are going to have issues, and that itself would become a challenge to the Belfast Agreement."
Well, you know what the answer really is, George Eustice, don't you? How about we just rejoin the customs union and the single market? That solves the entire Northern Ireland issue with a stroke of a pen.
And he also said that the way the protocol is being run in Northern Ireland at the moment was tantamount to saying that potatoes grown in one part of the United States can't be sold in another part of the United States. It's very complicated. I'm not sure he does fully appreciate all of that.
And given interstate trade laws, in some states, that very well might be the case. That very well might be the case.
Yes. And the matter of Joe Biden's thinking on the Northern Ireland Protocol came up in Prime Minister's questions today when DUP MP for Upper Bann, Carla Lockhart, asked the Deputy Prime Minister Dominic Raab, who is standing in for the PM while he's in America, the following pointed question. Following the ill-informed and partisan comments from President Biden overnight, would the Deputy Prime Minister urge the Prime Minister to point out to those he meets in the US who actually care about political stability in Northern Ireland that far from defending the Belfast Agreement, the Northern Ireland Protocol is now the single greatest danger to the political institutions?
Wow. Again, given what the DUP are currently threatening in Northern Ireland at the moment, the greatest threat to the Northern Ireland Protocol, the Belfast Agreement, and again, its political institutions is the DUP. Like you say, they're the ones currently throwing their toys out of the pram over this.
The situation is now time critical. Does the Deputy Prime Minister agree with me that a solution that restores Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom's internal market is the only way to avert the collapse of the institutions, and such a solution must be found in weeks rather than months?
Except there is no solution. There is absolutely no solution whatsoever. There was, in Theresa May's deal, the Irish backstop solution. But that would mean keeping all the rest of the UK potentially in the single market customs union as well. And of course, can't have that.
And this is 100% correct. And the fact that Biden either cannot hoist this in, or his advisors are unable to understand it, or are actively working in the other direction, shows that the US is completely blinkered and is no real friend to the UK, except when they need our help. In response to the question, Dominic Raab said, "We absolutely agree that having a smart and pragmatic approach is the only way we will be able to uphold the Good Friday Agreement."
And that's why you made the Northern Ireland Protocol. That's why Theresa May had the Northern Ireland backstop, the Northern Ireland backstop. But all the Brexiteers threw their toys out of the pram when that was the case, as did the DUP. So, and like I say, they're now pulling out of a load of peace agreement stuff, of like cooperation between all sorts of stuff that's happening in Northern Ireland that the DUP are pulling out of, and they are still threatening to remove the power sharing agreement. They are threatening to topple power sharing in Northern Ireland over the Northern Ireland Protocol. So, yeah. This is massively, wildly out of step, to a point where Jeff, to try and prove his point, has actively engaged in like open conspiracy theory. Like that's how much bending Jeff has had to do. That's how much he's had to reach, he has had to gain to try and make this make sense to his bizarre world. But anyway, yes, we are coming up to time. Unfortunately, we didn't cover some of the Labour stuff. Sorry about that, but I'm sure we'll cover it on the Good Morning Walk this weekend, when there's probably more stuff going to come out about this. like I say, things aren't looking good. Looks like we could be very well headed to a very, very bitter, very, very disastrous civil war, especially if we talked about earlier on the video of Boris Johnson hinting at a 2023 general election. Could be quite bad indeed for Labour. But again, we'll talk about that probably on the Good Morning Walk. But as always, thank you very much for coming to join us today on the Wednesday live stream. As always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you all to coming to join me today. It's been a lot of fun. I'm sure you'll agree. We've seen Daniel Hannan get a well and truly good thrashing there from one of the US congressmen. So, as always, like I said, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you on Saturday morning. Please do remember to watch out for a couple more of my videos coming out this week. And of course, we'll see you all very soon. Oh, and thank you very much, Cathology, for that last-minute donation. But anyway, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you all very soon.